So here's kind of the debate. You can look at this basic model of the strategic management process I talked about in the previous video, the analysis, choice, and implementation. But it leads to the question to ask, do you totally commit to a strategy and not deviate from it? Or do you kind of take strategy step by step, do a little bit of that, a little bit of this, check on it, kind of revise your bets, and kind of implement it a little bit more, and kind of, take it one step at a time and see what the environment gives you. And again, this is the classic debate between a industrial organization, industrial economics approach to strategy, and then the more resource-based view of strategy. Is strategy something that is like a rock, as Parmenides would say, or is it more like fire, as Heraclitus would say? Do we assume that our strategy is something that we should not deviate from, or do we incorporate our strategy as a living, breathing process and series of policies that we are, of course, free to change based on the environment? This is kind of the debate that we have, right? So we can look at strategy as design, but we can also look at it as a process. If we look at strategy as something as a design, we do all our strategic planning, we do all of our implementations, and we stick to that path. We leave very room for flexibility over the next 5 years because, my goodness, that's the way we designed it, and that's the way we're going to go with it. Strategy as design really focuses on the ends or the objectives of the firm. It looks at hardcore planning and rational choice. This is the domain of the strategy geniuses, right? Then they come up with their intended strategy, and then they execute it into a realized strategy. Now the flip side is the strategy is a process, and that's where there's a lot of different decision makers both inside and outside the firm. Those of you that see my videos on the stakeholder model, you would incorporate all the opinions of different stakeholders inside and outside the firm, and based on these interactions you'd come up with an emergent strategy, one that comes kind of from the bottom up, whereas the strategy design comes from the top down of a firm. Now the truth of the matter is strategy is usually some combination of the two, right? There's some plan that comes from the top down, but then there's also suggestions that come from the bottom up. So strategy is actually considered normally both a product of design and also part of a process. So it's product and process that are working together. Now, Mintzberg has an interesting critique of the formalized strategic planning, and he really talks about emergent strategy a lot. He gave an interesting example of strategy in one of his articles. I guess his wife is a potter or a ceramics kind of person, and he describes strategy as similar to her process of making a pot. She would kind of squeeze the clay and feel it, and there might be kind of little accidents that would happen along the way, and based on the firm or softness of the clay or the water, and these kinds of things. And then at the end, whatever pot that she created was a little bit of the design that she had when she started out on the show. And then alternatively, it was also a little bit of the way the clay reacted to her hands and her vision. Alternatively, you could look at it, strategy as a process. Like, I don't know if any of you watched Bob Ross and the Joys of Painting. Great show if you haven't seen it. But Bob Ross, it was a painting show on public television in the United States. And Bob Ross would look at strategy and he'd say, well, Bob Ross didn't have a comment on strategy, but if Bob Ross were doing strategy, he would say, I've got this vision of what I'd like to paint at the end. That's my strategy as design, my intended strategy through planning and rational choice. But as I'm painting, there's mistakes, or as Bob Ross would say, there's happy accidents. The way I feel, I get kind of an inspiration, or as I'm talking through a problem, I kind of start changing my mind. And I'm quite certain that when Bob Ross had finished his paintings at the end of every hour of that TV show, yes, it looked kind of like what he'd originally intended, but of course there were going to be variations and differences based on the process itself. Anyhow, so back to Mintzberg's formal critiques of strategic planning, or pardon me, critiques of formal strategic planning. So you've got the fallacy of prediction, if you can see me. You've got the fallacy of prediction, the fallacy of detachment, you've also got the fallacy of formalization. let's talk about that a little bit. Fallacy of prediction. Okay? You have to accept the fact that the future is unknown. Even the best strategy may fail based on some new player, new arrival. Think about the fact of, Nokia, right? They dominated smartphones for a long time. They've never seen Apple and the iPhone coming, right? It's not something that anybody could have ever planned or predicted. So their formal strategies didn't necessarily have a contingency plan for Apple coming along. That's the fallacy of prediction. We've also got the fallacy of detachment. And that's, it's impossible to divorce formulation from implementation. In other words, don't have your strategy consultants in the ivory tower coming up with this glorious strategy, okay, understanding what the ends of the firm are with absolutely no connection to the means of the firm. In other words, don't have a strategy that you have created with no thought to whether it can actually be implemented or not. And then, of course, there's also the fallacy of formalization. You can make strategy such a formal process that you've taken away flexibility, spontaneity, intuition, and learning. So, kind of the hint that I'm giving you is that Mintzberg really sees strategy very much as a process. Design can be helpful, it can give you the overall vision, but it's the emergent strategy, according to Mintzberg, that's more important. You can feel free to agree or disagree with Mintzberg as you wish. Now, it doesn't really matter whether you look at strategy as a process, as part of a design, or somewhere in the middle, like most people tend to. Strategy does have certain kind of universal multiple roles. First of all, strategy is used as a way to facilitate decision support. Okay? So decision making can be improved in terms of quality based on having a clear and coherent strategy. Strategy can also facilitate coordination and communication between members of an organization by creating consistency and unity. And of course, strategy can also be a target. It can improve performance by setting aspirations. Now, some of you have probably watched my video on bounded rationality on my business ethics course. But these three roles are all derivatives or are designed to work around bounded rationality. So I look at bounded rationality kind of in two ways. It's kind of like a cognitive opportunity cost. It's by Simon and March, and it's basically a commentary on the constraints of mankind's ability to know everything and to make the best or optimal choices. Okay? So when we talk about strategy as decision support, if you're working in a firm and you say, you know what, I wonder what's actually best for the firm. And then you could have a debate, maybe one person's right and one person's wrong, but that's a big waste of time, and maybe you're wrong, right? When you look at the strategy, you already know where the company stands, what the company thinks is the target or the strategy, and so you need to tailor your decisions around the overall company strategy. It improves the quality of decision making. Which choices do I make? Well, I make the ones based on the company strategy designed to support the company strategy, not based on my own personal discretion. So individuals within the firm make better decisions or decisions more in conformity with the overall strategy. Okay? We also talk about strategy as communication and coordination. Again, you've got people maybe in accounting and finance and they've got some sort of a conflict, they don't know which direction to go to. They can refer back to this overall strategy and then use that strategy as kind of a common point of agreement, and then use that to build their coordination and communication around that. And of course, strategy is also a target. It lets people within a firm know what they should be working towards, and it helps them set their kind of aspirations or goals. Okay? So it's again all about bounded rationality. Otherwise, people within the firm might not know what their targets might be. They might have a discussion about it and make the wrong decision. They may not be able to communicate effectively around a coherent strategy, and they may not understand what is the best decision for the firm, at least with support of its overall goals. Now, if you want to have a successful strategy, you have to have at least the following three things. You have to have long-term, simple, and agreed objectives. A company strategy should be relatively simple to understand conceptually, right? It shouldn't be overly wordy, overly complicated. Now you can add, amendments to your strategy, but it should at least be something that we can all understand, we can all follow. A strategy should be based on profound analysis of the competitive environment. You should understand what the ends of the firms are. And it should have an objective appraisal of your current resources. You should have a profound understanding of your current means, right? So it should be a simple and elegant statement or aspiration based on a joint understanding of the means and ends of the firm. Now there are three different types of strategy that you should be aware of. I'm going to delete this real quick. Kind of three levels of analysis for strategy. We generally talk about strategy as the kind of pursuit of competitive advantage or being different or however you look at it. But there are three different levels of analysis of strategy. There's corporate strategy. We're going to talk about all three in this course, don't worry. You've got corporate strategy, you've got business strategy, and you've got functional strategy. Okay. Corporate strategy answers the question, as a firm, in which industries do we compete? So for example, if you're talking about McDonald's, where do we compete? We compete in the fast food market. We compete in the restaurant market. We compete in the food service market. But we don't compete in the manufacturing market, not as McDonald's, right? Now in business strategy, we say with what competitive advantage? Again, tying it into McDonald's. Well, we compete in the fast food industry by having lower cost food, faster service, certain trademarks like the Big Mac or the Happy Meal, right? With what competitive advantage? Business strategy. And then functional strategy, deploying what resources and capabilities. Now again, I'll use the McDonald's example. So from a McDonald's perspective, we could say by having great training programs for our franchisees, by having superior logistics, by having world-class marketing. Okay? And that's a functional strategy. We'll talk about all the tools and everything that go with corporate level, business, and functional level strategy in this course. So as I start wrapping up this module in the next video, we'll talk about risk resources and strategic alignment and coherence. Looking forward to seeing you then.